All right, welcome back to WMMA Scene Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, and welcome to episode number 55 of the WMMA Scene Report show, where we go over all the latest results, news, fight announcements, and talk about upcoming fights. It's an all-in-one show that we try to keep weekly. If you've never watched it before, you're in for a treat. I mean, there's so much news going on in the world of women's mixed martial arts. Now, before I get into this episode, I do want to give a disclaimer. I'm getting over a bad cold I had last week, and I still have like a persistent cough going on. I just can't get rid of it. So if I start coughing during the show, I'll try to edit it out. If it gets real bad, I might not be able to. Some people find that offensive if you don't edit out and make a video absolutely perfect. I'm not a professional, okay? I do this on my phone. This will be the first episode of this that I'm doing on the phone. So let me know how it turns out that way. Anyway, let's get down to it. Last weekend's fights. First up was One Championship King of the Jungle in Singapore in front of an empty arena. First ladies fight at 115 pounds. Ritu Phogat defeated Chao Chen Wu via unanimous decision. Phogat climbed to 2-0. Wu fell to 2-2. Pretty uneventful fight. It basically consisted of Phogat constantly taking down Wu early in each round, and then basically staying in her guard and landing ground and pound. Wu kept a closed guard almost all the time, not really trying to improve her position very much, and Phogat just seemed content to sit in guard and land ground and pound. So Phogat's someone that One Championship really wants to push to break into India. I'm not impressed yet. Next up, also at 115 pounds, Denise Zamboanga defeated Mei Yamaguchi via unanimous decision. Zamboanga climbed to 7-0. Mei Yamaguchi fell to 21-12 and I think won. Big, huge upset here. Zamboanga came in on 2 weeks' notice. Huge underdog. I don't know what the betting odds are, but I mean, just in terms of the real fight, I don't know anyone that would have picked Zamboanga going into this fight. And she just completely shut Mei Yamaguchi down and battered her from pillar to post in this fight with her boxing. Just amazing upset here. And then finally, Tiffany Teo defeated Ayaka Miura via TKO due to punches at 4 minutes 45 seconds of the third round. That fight was at 125 pounds. Teo climbed to 9-1. Miura fell to 10-3. So this fight was very similar to the previous fight in that you had a ground specialist who was shut down by a striker. But whereas Yamaguchi's more well-rounded than Miura is very much a specialist, and she just could not get her special to work for her against Tiffany Teo. Very nice display of how to shut down a specialist by Tiffany Teo, who probably earned another crack at the 125-pound title in One Championship. Moving along, at Eternal MMA 51 in Australia, at 125 pounds, Casey O'Neill defeated Caitlin McEwen via unanimous decision. O'Neill climbed to 4-0. McEwen fell to 5-2. I believe this was O'Neill's debut at 125 pounds. She's one to watch out for down there out of Eternal MMA. Moving along to UFC on ESPN Plus number 27, Benavidez versus Figueiredo, also known as UFC Fight Night Norfolk. There were, I believe, two ladies fights, on his card, both on the main card, both at 145 pounds. First up, Megan Anderson defeated Norma Dumont via KO due to a right cross at 3 minutes 31 seconds of the first round. Anderson climbed to 10-4. Dumont fell to 4-1. So we finally got to see in the UFC the Megan Anderson that we would see in Invicta. On the downside, it was against someone who was moving up from 135 pounds, likely moving back down to 135 pounds. So, nice win for Anderson, but also not that so great a win. Also at 145 pounds, Felicia Spencer defeated Zara Farron dos Santos via TKO due to ground and pound. 3 minutes 37 seconds of the first round. Spencer climbed to 8-1. Farron fell to 6-4. This, if you watched the Megan Anderson versus Zara Farron fight, this one was pretty much the same thing, just took a little longer. Farron just has no ground game whatsoever, and Spencer just completely had her way with her. I mean, it almost looked like an assault case going on there. All right, final event of the evening, going along to South Korea at Zeus FC4. This was another empty arena event. Had two ladies fights. First up at 105 pounds, Yerin Hong defeated Jay Che via unanimous decision after 2 rounds. Hong climbed to 1-1. Che fell to 2-4. And then at 115 pounds in the co-main event, Camila Rivarola defeated Hyerin Kwan due to submission via arm triangle at 2 minutes 36 seconds of the first round. Rivarola climbed to 3-2. Kwan fell to 2-4. I haven't seen any videos of these yet. From what I understand, the atomweight fight was mostly on the feet, and this looks like the strawweight fight was a fairly quick submission. Okay, so that was the past weekend's results. So let's move on to the news. All right, first up, a fight announcement for BMC3, March 28th in Poland. Looks like, I believe this is a bantamweight fight, possibly feather. Ryzen veteran Stephanie Egger, 4-1, is taking on Marta Wolacek, who is 4-2. And then moving along, Bellator 241, March 13th at Mohegan Sun, a featherweight bout between Leslie Smith, 11-8-1, versus Jesse Meal, 9-3. Smith fights are pretty predictable, but they're always fun to watch. Next up, some injury bug news. Due to injury, Vanessa Milo has replaced Duda Santana at UFC Fight Night Oklahoma City against Sarah Alpar on May 2nd. More news. UFC Fight Night on May 16th in San Diego. There's two fight announcements for this one. First up at flyweight, Ariana Lipsky, 12-5, is taking on Luana Carolina, 6-1. That should be a fun but sloppy fight. And then at strawweight, Courtney Casey, 8-7, taking on Lara Procopio, 6-1. Pretty much the same. Fun, but I mean, it won't be the most technical fight, but it should be very fun. Next up, at Lights Out 8, May 2nd, I believe that's somewhere in Michigan, a bantamweight bout between Amanda Cooper, 4-5, taking on Pamela Boveda, who is 5-3. According to Cooper, who's a UFC veteran, this is like a one-time move up to bantamweight just to get a fight in. Next up, Gorilla FC 26 on April 3rd. I'm not quite sure what the location is for this one, but a flyweight bout between Irina Alexieva, 3-1. She is taking on Zaira Dishikova, who is 7-3. And then a fight announcement for UFC Fight Night on June 27th in Austin, Texas. A flyweight battle between Jennifer Maia, 17-6-1. She's taking on Viviane Araujo, 8-2. That should be one to watch. That is definitely one to watch. Former Invicta champ versus a fairly rising fighter, looking to get back from her first loss in the UFC, I should say. Next up, Deep Jewels 29 is going down May 6th in Caracuen Hall, and its first fight announced is the microweight tournament final between Suwanon Amptharocket Boonsorn, who is 5-3, and she is taking on Mizuki Furuse, who is 7-6. Both just competed last Monday at Deep Jewels 28 in the semifinals of that tournament. Amptharocket defeated Emi Sato, and Mizuki Furuse defeated the much more experienced and much older Yasuko Tomata. Next up, a Bellator announcement. Bellator 242, May 9th in San Jose. A strawweight bout between Emily King, who is 4-3. She's taking on Carrie Melendez, 4-0. So, take a minute out to talk about this one. Emily King is coming off the win over Ava Knight. And she is basically getting a much tougher step up in competition-wise against Carrie Melendez. Basically the same exact thing that happened to King's teammate. King's teammate, Taryn Taylor. Was it Taryn Taylor? Taylor... I can't remember her exact name. Beat up Heather Hardy. And then for her next fight, they gave her an actual contender, a former title contender, in Alejandra Lara. Well, Emily King just beat up someone that Bellator wanted to build up in Ava Knight, and now they're giving her Carrie Melendez, who may only be, Carrie Melendez may only be 4-0, but she has a lot of kickboxing experience, and she trains with, her husband's Gilbert Melendez. They're feeding Emily King to the wolves here. No surprise. Anyway, moving along. Yet UFC 249, April 18th, a bantamweight bout between Sijara Eubanks, who is 4-4. She's taking on Sarah Morris, who is currently 6-5. Then another UFC announcement at UFC Fight Night on June 20th in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Flyweight bout between Gillian Robertson and Taylor Santos. So Gillian Robertson getting a bout on home soil in Canada. And then finally in news and announcements, Deep 95 Impact, May 6th. A microweight bout between Satoko Shinashi, who is 38-4-2. She's taking on Mizuki Oshiro, who is 2-1. And this is a rematch from December, where Oshiro pulled off a huge upset, winning the first round TKO over Shinashi. So, going by records alone, you're like, oh my gosh, this is can crushing. Well, it was meant to be that back in December, and Oshiro just said, nope, not getting crushed today. So, we'll see if Oshiro can pull it off again, or if Shinashi will train specifically for her this time and get one back in the win column. So that was the news and announcements for this week. Now let's move on to a little segment I like to call the fuckery, better known as the UFC rankings updates. So two big changes here. First at strawweight, Felice Herrig moved up one spot from 13 to number 12, which dropped Tisha Torres down from 12 to number 13. Neither of them have fought recently. Neither of them are fighting anytime soon. That's why I call this the fuckery. And then the flyweight, Molly McCann moved up one spot from 15 to 14, and Pollyanna Botelho dropped from 14 to 15. Why? Nobody knows. Anyway, that's this week's edition of the UFC rankings updates, aka the fuckery. Now moving along to a little portion I like to call Welcome to the Scene. It's where every week we try to welcome some of the newest named subscribers to the WMMA scene. It's been 2 weeks since the last show, and a lot of new named public subscribers in those 2 weeks. So I want to take a moment out and recognize all of them. Kimya Noreen, Purple Donatello, Horse Lover Fat, Nacho Macuso, Mike Cowenhoven, DeMarcus Thomas, Frederick Rickard, Kasim Channel, Pencil Killer Art PKA, and Le Aleba. All of you guys, welcome to the scene. Thank you, all of you, for subscribing. If you're new to the channel and you subscribe and you have your settings where your subscriptions are now public, it'll let me know who you are when you subscribe to the channel, and I like to recognize everybody. Anyway, that's the welcome to the scene, which brings us along to the last segment for this week, the upcoming fights. So, first up would be Invicta Phoenix Series 3. However, being that the matchups are not finalized until tomorrow night during the ceremonial weigh-ins, I'm not going to cover the Invicta Phoenix Series 3 in this show. I'm going to try to do a special preview tomorrow night and record that and get it all done after the ceremonial weigh-in. So please be patient and wait for that. In the meantime, we'll move on to the other events for this weekend. First up, again, I'll try to keep that to a minimum. LFA 83 going down at the Bomb Factory in Dallas, Texas. One ladies fight at bantamweight. Haley Cowan 4-1 taking on Brittany Cloudy, who is 2-1. Looking at the stats, Cowan's on a 4-fight win streak. Cloudy's on a 2-fight win streak. Cloudy's the older fighter, 30 years to 28 for Cowan. No stats available for Cloudy, which is unusual on Tapology. Cowan is 5 feet 9 inches, 175 centimeters tall, has a reach of 71 inches, 180 centimeters. So they're really billing this as Cowan's bantamweight debut. Here's the thing though, it's also Cloudy's bantamweight debut. So what is this fight supposed to really tell us about how Cowan is going to do at bantamweight? It's really not. I mean, sure, she has to weigh in at bantamweight. She has to fight at bantamweight. But she's fighting another flyweight who's moving up. And not even someone who's basically forced to move up. Cowan has to move up because she couldn't make weight last time. She went to the hospital and her fight had to be canceled. So this is basically a setup fight by LFA. And I get some flack for saying this, but when it's LFA matchup, always bet on blonde, okay? You know the phrase bet on black? In LFA, always bet on blonde. I'm picking Haley Cowan to win this. Up next, Saturday morning, this one, like LFA, will also be on UFC Fight Pass. Eternal MMA 52 out of Southport, Queensland, Australia. One ladies fight, Chelsea Hackett, coming in 2-0-1, and she's taking on Rhiannon, the Tornado Thompson, coming in 5-3. Let's see. 2-fight win streak for Hackett, who drew in her first fight, and is coming off a win over Nicole Zeppisberry 4 months ago. Thompson's coming off a win via rear naked choke. Her last fight was 2 years ago, and that's a win preceded by 3 straight losses. Okay, so no stats available for Hackett. Thompson, according to this, stands 5 feet 5 inches, 165 centimeters tall. Okay, just look at Hackett compared to the picture of Thompson. I think we know who's being set up. Who's being set up here? I've watched Hackett. Watched Hackett's last fight. It's a very good fight, although her opponent also kind of knocked herself out. But I have liked what I have seen of Hackett, so that's who we're gonna pick here. Also going on this weekend is AFL number 23 Valkyries. That is an all-ladies event. Now, I cannot find a solid main card based on all the pro fights. Even Tapology seems like not all of the fights are being advertised. So I won't go into this card here. I will say, though, it is available via Fight TV. It is an all-female event being put on by AFL. It's the first time doing that. So, if you got Let me see if I can find what the price is for this. I'll bring it up on Fight here real quick. AFL 23 Valkyrie. It is $14.99 on Saturday, and it's going on Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time if you're on the East Coast of the U.S. So, oh, you know what? Check that. My apologies. This does not go on until next weekend, the 14th. So disregard everything about that event. I will try to get a better lineup for next weekend. My sincerest apologies. So, final event of the weekend then, as near as I can tell. No, actually there's a couple more matchups going on. I'll look them up here. But first up, UFC 248, what you were all really here for. There's two ladies fights going on. First up, at 115 pounds on the prelims, strawweight division, Emily Spitfire Wittmeyer taking on Pollyanna Vienna. Wittmeyer coming in 4-3, Vienna coming in 10-4. Wittmeyer coming off a loss to Amanda Hebus, no shame there, 8 months ago. 2 wins preceding that. Vienna coming in off of 3 straight losses. One of them up at flyweight. Her most recent loss was at flyweight 6 months ago to Veronica Macedo. Vienna's the older fighter by 1 year, 29-28 for Wittmeyer. Looks like Vienna's just a little bit taller, 5 feet 7 inches, 170 centimeters tall. To Wittmeyer's 5 feet 6 inches, 167 centimeters tall. However, Vienna does have a sizable reach advantage, 67 inches, 170 centimeters, to Wittmeyer's 63 inches, 160 centimeters. So both of these two desperately need a win. Vienna more than Wittmeyer does. However, I'm going with Emily Wittmeyer. She just seems better able to put things together in the cage than Vienna can. Most likely, we're going to go with Wittmeyer by decision. Most likely decision. If there's a finish, it's Wittmeyer via submission. Then moving up to the co-main event, strawweight title fight, Weili Magnum Zhan taking on Joanna Jędrzejczyk, first defense of Zhan's title. Zhan coming in 20-1, Joanna Jędrzejczyk 16-3. Zhan riding a 19 or 20 fight win streak. Jędrzejczyk coming off a win over Watterson, preceded by a loss to Valentina Shevchenko up at flyweight. Let's see. Jędrzejczyk's the older fighter, 32 years, to Zhan's 30. Joanna's taller, 5 feet 6 inches, 168 centimeters, to Zhan's 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters. And Jędrzejczyk has a reach advantage, 65.5 inches, 166 centimeters, to Zhan's 63 inches. So I did a full video breakdown for this one. Please go check it out if you haven't yet. I break down each fighter individually, talk about them statistically. But the pick here is either Zhan by finish in the first 2 rounds, but if it goes deeper than that, it heavily favors Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So the pick is either Zhan by early finish or Jędrzejczyk by decision. So apparently there are 2 more events. First up, on Sunday is going to be Pancrase number 3. You know what? They're not even listed on Tapology. My apologies. Neither event. I can't even find them on Tapology. It's Prospect. I don't think it is. So I'll give the results on for the next show. There's supposed to be Pancrase 313 in Japan supposed to have one ladies fight, and then Prospect FC 13 in Canada has another one. So anyway, I'll get the results on probably by Monday. They'll be up, and I'll include them on the next show. My apologies for that. So that really brings us to conclusion for this weekend show, or this week's show. I might have mentioned in the beginning, this is my first time doing this video or this series, and definitely this long of a video. I'm using new editing software that is entirely mobile. I record the video on my phone and then transfer it to the iPad where I do the software on there. So please let me know what you think about the changes, if you noticed them. Of course, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. And we'll see you next time.